I am an imperial concubine who can hear the emperor's inner thoughts. In my previous life, I followed the emperor's every whim, fulfilling all his desires. I thought I would be promoted and eventually become empress. But the emperor was a despicable man. He rejected my advances and instead fell in love with a fisherman's daughter outside the palace. He ignored everyone's objections and made her empress. Fearing I might harm his empress, he had me executed prematurely. In this new life, after hearing the emperor's thoughts, I revealed the information to my sworn enemies. The emperor breaks out in hives after eating lychees. The emperor plans to dispose of your family. The emperor praises your sister endlessly. And Fei and Shu Fei were stunned. Sister, what should I do? Please think of a way quickly. I nearly lost myself in those cries of sister. In the previous life, they all called me a slut. I wasn't idle either. I called them sluts, idiots, scheming servants, fools. But that was all in the past. In this life, they are my beloved sisters. I looked at Fei and smiled. Don't worry. I have a plan, but it depends on how ruthless you are. And Fei hurriedly bowed. My younger sister has just come of age and is already betrothed. I am trapped in this palace. I cannot let her get involved. Please have mercy on her. From now on, I will follow your every command. And Fei didn't believe me at first, until I had her pretend to leave the room, then sneak back, and see the emperor's gaze fixated on her younger sister, who was as tender as a bud. And Fei was furious. Her younger sister was the one she had raised with her own hands, and their bond was as deep as the sea. In the previous life, I followed the emperor's wishes and handled another matter. Missing this opportunity, by the time I heard the emperor's true feelings for Fei's younger sister, she had already entered the palace. This matter filled me with such hatred that I believed Fei had deliberately arranged it, leading to a major conflict between us. But in this life, I heard the emperor's true feelings. Not only did I not carry out any of the tasks he had assigned me, but I did the exact opposite, causing him nothing but trouble. Thus, I did not miss the emperor's true feelings. It turned out he had already set his sights on Fei's younger sister. Humph. What a lecherous man. I did her a favor and told Fei about this. And Fei clenched her teeth and said, as long as it can save my younger sister, I'm willing to go through fire and water. I motioned for her to come closer and whispered a few words in her ear. And Fei gripped my hand tightly and exclaimed, thank you, sister, for your brilliant plan. Whether this succeeds or not, I will forever remember your kindness. And Fei hurried away. She led her sister, who was acting coy, to present the emperor with a bowl of soup. The emperor was overjoyed and drank the soup eagerly. Then, his eyes swelled shut. The imperial physician managed to revive him. And Fei led her younger sister back to attend to the emperor. Weeping. However, a fragrant breeze blew toward the emperor's face, causing his rash to worsen. The emperor pointed at Fei and her sister. Get out of my sight. And Fei left sorrowfully and sent her younger sister out of the palace that night. She hurriedly notified her parents to arrange her sister's marriage as soon as possible. When the emperor's rash subsided, he recalled the incident. The news of Fei's sister's marriage had already spread outside the palace. The emperor fell silent, likely recalling that both times he had seen Fei's sister, he had contracted a rash. He suppressed his thoughts. It seems our destinies are not meant to be. I curled my lips in a sneer. In my previous life, he brought Fei's younger sister into the palace, slept with her a few times, and then grew tired of her. The palace gained another pitiful soul. He, however, lived freely and happily, falling in love with someone else. Spit! Pervert! Several months later, Fei's younger sister was married off. Fei finally felt at ease. She came to thank me. I dismissed everyone else. She suddenly knelt down and performed the highest form of respect. Sister, I will never forget your life-saving grace. From now on, I am your person. Whatever you say, I will do. I hurriedly helped her up. There was a strange sense of emotion in my heart. In my previous life, I had enemies everywhere because I wanted to become empress. But when I died, the ones who came to send me off were those very enemies. Those who understood me best were my enemies. They pleaded before the emperor, saying that I would never harm that fisherman's daughter. Although the empress consort speaks harshly, her heart is kind and compassionate. Although the empress consort is arrogant, her actions are upright and honorable. Although the empress consort flatters those above her, she is not servile. Although the empress consort loves to compete for favor, she would never stab others in the back. The empress consort. Enough. Stop talking. Let me die. The emperor hesitated. But the fisherman's daughter, with tears welling in her eyes, spoke softly. I cannot compete with these palace intriguers. Nor do I care to. Li Xin, if you cannot clear the obstacles for me, do not confine me to the palace. The world is vast, where cannot I go? It was those words that solidified the emperor's resolve. He gave me poisoned wine and banished the other concubines to a Buddhist temple. The vast palace was left with only the two of them, destined to be together for life. Spit! In this lifetime, I will make sure they meet a terrible end. I helped Fei to her feet, feeling a mix of awkwardness and pride. Oh, the daughter of the Yin family. It seems a little kindness was all it took to buy you. And Fei clenched her fists in anger. Zhao Jiufeng, you'll eventually poison yourself with your own words. I thank you for the small four-sided incense. You're my benefactor. I won't hold anything against you, as long as I remember your kindness. The small four-sided incense was made from lychee shells, sugarcane residue, dried tangerine peel, and pear peel. And Fei increased the amount of lychee shells and made a new batch of shao sihixiang. She and her sister sewed the shao sihixiang into a pouch and wore it around their necks. They also stuffed the perfume powder into the pearls on their hairpins, sleeves, and shoe tips, and even added lychee juice to their lip balm. The two of them nearly killed the emperor. However, the emperor couldn't die yet. No one in the palace was pregnant. The emperor had been on the throne for 3 years. Yet no one in the palace had given birth to his heir. I suspect the emperor is impotent. But when I died, that fisherman's daughter was clearly pregnant. Could it be that all the concubines in the palace are infertile? I want to try again. And Fei and I chatted idly for a while. Our energies clashed, and we argued after just a few words. Perhaps, maybe, or probably, she and I were destined to be archenemies. And Fei finally gritted her teeth and took her leave. I felt a pang of regret and called out to her as she walked away. Aniru, if you truly wish to repay me, then live your life well. In half a year, the emperor will go on an incognito tour and meet that fisherman's daughter. There are so many concubines in the palace, constantly gossiping and backbiting one another. But I wasn't afraid at all. Yet that powerless fisherman's daughter made me so afraid. A single casual remark from her could stir the emperor's emotions. I wished there were more people I knew in the palace, so I could feel safer. And Fei stopped in her tracks, turned around, and looked at me with a complex expression. Don't worry. For your sake, I'll live well too. I felt reassured. The daughter of the Yin family truly had backbone. I still often went to see the emperor. There was no other reason. I wanted to see if I could get pregnant. Once I was pregnant, he would be useless to me. Then, the emperor was delighted. I was beautiful, with striking features, and the elaborate, gaudy colors I wore made me look even more splendid. The emperor once said that seeing me made him feel that the country was at peace and the people were content. But later, he chose a fisherman's daughter who preferred plain clothes and had a plain appearance. Indeed, a man's words are as unreliable as a liar's. Trusting him is a recipe for disaster. Even his true feelings cannot be trusted. Because self-awareness is not something everyone possesses. Not even the emperor himself knows what he truly desires. If he is destined to be another man's husband, then I'll work myself to death for him. I'll make him tremble at the mention of sex. I seduced the emperor several times. Afterward, the emperor was so tired he wanted to die. The concubine is truly a demon. I might die in her arms. I really can't go on today. I hope she'll be sensible and stop teasing me. How could that be? I have plenty of tricks up my sleeve to drain him of his strength. The fragrant powder on my fingertips slowly scattered across the emperor's face, body, and bed. He rolled over and pinned me beneath him again. Finally, I was exhausted. The emperor's dazed eyes could barely stay open. I lay in his arms, drawing circles on his chest to tease him. I squeezed my voice out. Your Majesty, it's my birthday soon. What gift will you give me? Humph. What do you want? What a boring woman. All you ever think about is taking. I clenched my fists. In my previous life, I took his words to heart, restrained myself, and acted indifferent. But he said I was faking it. But when I didn't pretend, he didn't give me anything either. This time around, I don't care what he thinks. I only care about what I think. I said in a spoiled voice. Your Majesty, I've served you so well. Could you grant me a favor? What do you want? She just wants to be empress. Doesn't she even look at herself in the mirror? My fists clenched again. Your Majesty, I've been in the palace for years. I want to go home to see my parents. Please grant me permission. Your Majesty. My voice took several twists and turns. I even felt sick of myself. The emperor paused, a bit taken aback. I've misunderstood her. She's actually just homesick. Granted. It's a small matter. Is there anything else you wish to request? He spoke with hidden meaning, and I understood his intent. This despicable man. He wants to coax me into revealing what I truly desire. If I were to speak my mind, he would use it against me, looking down on me and treating me with contempt. He thinks he's clever. This concubine has nothing else to ask for. I did once think of becoming empress. But upon reflection, I am unworthy. Being a concubine is the best fate I could hope for. Your Majesty, please do not tempt this concubine to think such things. If I were to think that way, you would scold me again, and I would be so ashamed. But then again, Your Majesty isn't the kind of person who would do such a thing. So I dare not think such thoughts. Your Majesty, please sleep. I'm so tired. The emperor fell silent. His inner thoughts were a jumble of meaningless nonsense. Humph. Does she know something? Was she just sarcastically scolding me? No. She wouldn't dare. It seems I've spoiled her too much with my affection. Tomorrow, I'll call for the concubine. Oh, I understand. Tomorrow, I'll give the concubine some potent medicine too. But the Shufei doesn't trust me. She looked at me suspiciously. Are you really being so kind? I yawned lazily. It's not entirely for you. Recently, the emperor almost took a new concubine into the palace. The Shufei grew serious. She had heard rumors about the matter involving Princessin, and if it weren't for the emperor suddenly contracting measles, it might have come to pass. But what does this have to do with me? I sneered. What does it have to do with you? It has everything to do with you. It must be because we haven't served the emperor well enough, giving him time to dwell on such things. We must work harder to please the emperor. Yesterday I worked hard to exhaust the emperor. Today you must do your best and not disappoint me. Shu Fei's face flushed red. She stood up and spat lightly. How vulgar of you. Shu Fei was an educated woman. Unlike me, who was neither skilled in literature nor martial arts. In her previous life, her father and brothers were imprisoned by the emperor. All she could do was kneel before the emperor's palace with the imperial edict praising her family's loyalty and righteousness, begging the emperor to spare them, insisting that her father and brothers would never rebel. Unfortunately, the emperor never saw her. After her father and brothers died, she starved herself to death to prove her innocence. I was so desperate to climb the ranks. Part of it was also out of fear of being arbitrarily disposed of by the emperor. At least the empress is the emperor's wife. Disposing of one's wife arbitrarily would inevitably spark criticism from the previous dynasty. I sneered. We've been in the palace for 3 years, and not a single one of us has borne the emperor's heir. Don't you want to know if it's the emperor who's incapable, or if it's us? Furthermore, your family is about to face a great disaster. If you were to become pregnant, you might be able to save your father and brothers. The noble consort turned pale with shock. What did you say? I realized I had spoken too soon and quickly covered my mouth. I didn't say anything. You did. I didn't. Noble consort. Don't try to slander me. I'm leaving. I hurriedly slipped away. Shu Fei is a stubborn woman. If I told her directly that the emperor would punish her father and brothers, she wouldn't believe me. But if she grew suspicious and investigated on her own, she would definitely believe it. Sure enough, that night, the maidservant said that Shu Fei had called for water several times and didn't go to sleep until the 3rd watch. Upon hearing this, I flew into a rage. I had been pestering the emperor until the 2nd watch. Shu Fei had actually engaged him in a heated battle until the 3rd watch. Does she have more tricks up her sleeve than I do? I've actually been outmaneuvered by Shu Fei. How despicable! Shu Fei has monopolized the emperor's attention for several days now. Her favor is so overwhelming that it's enough to make anyone jealous. A few days later, she came to my palace with a solemn expression. After I dismissed everyone else, she suddenly collapsed onto the chair as if all her strength had been drained from her body. Her face was pale, and her eyes were filled with tears. Sister, you were right. The emperor really intends to harm my father and brothers. He truly has murderous intent toward them. But why? My father and brothers have been loyal to the emperor all their lives. Our Song family has served the imperial family for generations. I hurriedly interrupted her. Stop. Stop. Don't say anymore. I could recite the rest of her words by heart. My ancestors fought alongside the emperor to establish the empire. My grandfather was the former emperor's tutor, and his spirit tablet is enshrined in the ancestral temple. My father was the former emperor's companion, serving by his side for decades. In the previous life, the Empress Dowager repeated these words hundreds of times, but not once did they move the emperor's heart. I said, "Have you ever considered that your family might be a hindrance?" The Empress Dowager stood up in excitement, but my father was loyal to the emperor and helped him ascend the throne. A cripple, once healed, will discard his crutch first. The Empress Dowager collapsed helplessly into her chair, weeping bitterly. What should I do? Does that mean I should just die? Your death won't help. The emperor enjoys sleeping with you, and killing your family are 2 different things. The Empress Dowager was speechless. She raised her reddened eyes and glared at me. Then what should I do? I sighed. It depends on whether your father and brothers value their lives or their positions. The Empress Dowager immediately understood. She pondered for a moment. I told you. My father and brothers might not believe me. I took a bracelet from my wrist and gave it to her. Take this. Have your father take the bracelet to my father, and he will tell him everything. That dog emperor is so despicable. The task of investigating Shufei's father and brothers was assigned to my father. Though he found nothing, simply mentioning it would break their hearts. These Confucian scholars place the utmost importance on dedicating their lives to their cause until death. Shufei's father and brothers wanted to be like Zhuge Liang. Unfortunately, the emperor was not Liu Bei. They would eventually come to terms with reality. Once they did, it would be the end of their hopes. Shufei hurried away with the items. Before leaving, she suddenly stopped, hesitated, and told me, "Sister, you no longer need to focus your efforts on the emperor." For 3 consecutive days, I secretly took the emperor's pulse and also secretly examined. Below. He probably can't. I was struck speechless. He can't? Can't? Then how did he get that fisherman's daughter pregnant? I felt like I had discovered some great truth. Are you sure? I studied under a renowned physician from a young age and accompanied him on house calls. It was only after entering the palace that I pretended to know nothing. What I've seen, I'm certain of. I clenched my teeth in anger. That dog emperor. He slept with me all those days for nothing. Does the emperor know about this? The concubine hesitated. He probably doesn't. Imperial physicians dare not speak definitively, especially about matters concerning the emperor's heir. That's good. I made up my mind. I must carry this child. If the fisherman's daughter could make the emperor wear a green hat, so could I. I began preparing for the imperial visit. Shufei was also busy. The next day, news came from outside the palace that the Grand Tutor had fallen from his carriage and broken his leg. Shufei's eldest brother had injured his arm while protecting his father. The Grand Tutor was elderly, and his leg injury had aggravated his old ailments. He was near death. Elderly people value returning to their roots. The eldest brother of the Empress Dowager immediately requested to resign his post and send his father back home. The emperor approved. On the day I left the palace to visit my family, the Empress Dowager came to see me off, silently shedding tears. I envy my sister for being able to return home, but I can't even see my parents one last time. From now on, I will have no family left in the capital. I felt a pang of sympathy and stroked her head. Once her father and brother left, they likely would never return to the capital. When it comes to power and life is more important. I whispered, "Why don't you have a child of your own?" She was startled. I looked at her intently. "There's only one chance." She suddenly grabbed my hand. "Please help me. Sister. He is unkind. Don't blame me for being unrighteous. Wait for my good news." I went back to the palace to visit my family. Though I called it going home, I was under constant surveillance the entire time. Only when I met with my mother and sisters did I have a moment to speak privately. My mother gripped my hand tightly and said angrily, "Zhao Jiufeng, you're so bold. You're trying to kill us all." I only said, "The emperor is no good. Relying on him, I'll never have children in this lifetime." My mother's grip loosened. "That damned Zhaoshen." Her eyes turned red. Mine did too. The Shufei family is a cautionary tale. The emperor doesn't know he can't have children. This child might save our entire family. If it can't, we'll all die together. My mother made up her mind and gently patted my hand. "Don't worry. I'm here. I'll go prepare right away." "Prepare 3 sets." My mother nearly stumbled. I said boldly, "I have several sisters in the palace." "You still care about your sisters in such a situation? This is the family tradition of the Zhao clan. If there's something good, we share it with our sisters." My mother gritted her teeth and left. When I returned to the palace, I was holding a large box. On top were silver notes, and hidden beneath were things too shameful to describe. After returning, I summoned Shufei and Anfei and showed them the box. "The sooner you use this, the more effective it will be. Do as you see fit. Use it if you want, or discard it if you don't. After all, this is our only chance. Xu Fei took one first. If one concubine is pregnant, the emperor will suspect her. But if several concubines are pregnant, he'll only suspect the imperial physician's incompetence. Count me in. And Fei clenched her teeth. You two are lucky. Take it if you want. But the emperor hasn't called for me lately. If I get pregnant, the timing won't match. What's so hard about that? Go to the emperor tonight and give him a bowl of yuan shao. That dog has been craving them lately. Count me in too. And Fei also took one. That night, she carried the yuan shao to the emperor and coaxed him into her palace. By the fourth watch of the night, the two finally rested. I was heartbroken. Those wicked Xu Fei and En Fei. What tricks did you use to make the emperor battle with you until the third or fourth watch? My self-respect was severely wounded. So I played a trick and spread the word about the emperor's preferences throughout the palace. This kept the emperor busy. Today, Zhao Gui's gift was to his liking. Tomorrow, Li Gui's gift was to his taste. The day after tomorrow, Song Mei's. Song Mei was stopped at the door because the emperor had indigestion and ordered that all gifts from the concubines be sent back. I felt a pang of regret. Song Mei Ren was so foolish, she should have sent digestive pills. However, 2 days later, some concubines thought of this. The beauties of the harem united their efforts. For the next month, the emperor lived in extravagant indulgence, and both the upper and lower courts ate until they were stuffed. Meanwhile, my pregnancy began to show. At the palace banquet, I felt nauseous and began to vomit. As I vomited, the noble consort Shu and the noble consort and could not hold back either. In an instant, the entire banquet hall was thrown into chaos. After taking the pulse, the imperial physician immediately knelt down and congratulated the emperor, announcing that the 3 concubines were all pregnant. The emperor was overjoyed. He felt proud, as if this proved his power, and exuded an air of triumph over the harem. He did not notice the furrowed brows of the head of the Imperial Medical Bureau. He bestowed generous rewards on the harem and the pregnant concubines. Then, he left the palace in disguise. The night before he left, he came to see me. Ah Feng, while I am away, the harem will rely on you to manage everything. Since you are pregnant, you must prioritize your own well-being and take good care of yourself. What nonsense are you spouting? You want me to manage the harem and take care of my health? Why can't you do it yourself? I squeezed out a soft voice. Your Majesty, please don't go. I just want to be with you. The emperor's body stiffened. Ah Feng, be good. The empire needs me. Have these women in the harem never seen a man before? They all rush at me as soon as they see me. These past few days, my waist is about to give out. If I don't escape the palace soon, I'll end up dying on one of these women's bellies. This won't do. Why did you take so many concubines? Useless dog of a man. The emperor, fearing I would cling to him, hurriedly found an excuse and fled. I stared at his back and smiled. In my previous life, the emperor said he and the fisherman's daughter had endured hardships to return to the palace. Therefore, he regarded the fisherman's daughter as his savior, family, and lover. But what if the storms grew even fiercer? Could they still weather the storms together and share the years? I was curious. I released a white dove. The noble consort hung up lanterns. The consort lit fireworks. We all said we were praying for the emperor's well-being. The emperor's incognito visit this time was a bit too long. It had been 9 whole months since he last returned. The court officials, who were initially panicked, eventually established a smooth workflow, with everyone collaborating to keep the government running. The harem was also peaceful. With the emperor absent, All the concubines were leisurely, and their relationships were surprisingly harmonious. I, Shu Fei, and An Fei successfully gave birth to 2 boys and a girl. Holding the children, I wept with joy. In my previous life, I envied the fisherman's daughter. I envied her for being favored by the emperor. I envied her for being the only one in the palace who could conceive the emperor's child. I envied her for having a blood relative by her side during the long, lonely years in the palace. But I only envied her, I never thought of harming her. What truly disgusted me was how she looked down on us noble women while climbing into the lap of wealth, yet pretended to be virtuous and accepted it reluctantly. How despicable! In my previous life, the emperor favored her and the child in her womb. In this life, the emperor has 3 children. Let's see how she uses her silver tongue to beg for a lifetime of devotion to one man. On the day my imperial son was a month old, the emperor returned. I was dressing when my hands paused. How did he survive? He was so hard to kill. I dressed and went to see the emperor. He looked haggard and frightened, but upon seeing us, he showed a joy as if reunited with an old friend. Ah Feng, Shu Fei, an heir. I almost couldn't return to see you. Shu Fei, and Fei, and I exchanged glances, each of us hugging our child and rushing to the emperor's side, quickly pushing aside the fisherwoman. Your Majesty, you've lost weight. I missed you so much. Every day you were gone, I prayed for you. Your Majesty, look! This is our child. See how much he resembles you. Back then, my mother had specially chosen a man who was tall, strong, and handsome, and bore a striking resemblance to the emperor. Now that the child was a month old, he was soft and adorable, and indeed bore a striking resemblance to the emperor. Everyone who saw him couldn't help but praise him. The emperor was greatly pleased. This is my child. He's a bit ugly. My concubines, on the other hand, have become much more voluptuous and graceful. Only when I went out did I realize that the palace is truly a heavenly palace. I will never go on an incognito visit again. The fisherwoman was neglected. She spoke coldly. Zhao Xin, since you have returned to the palace, I should also leave. We will never meet again. She adopted a cold demeanor and turned to leave. The emperor did not speak. I did not speak either. In my previous life, I was too impatient. Before the emperor could say anything, I rushed to question the fisherwoman how she dared to know the emperor's name. The fisherman's daughter, with tear-filled eyes, said she had always called the emperor by his given name. The emperor immediately scolded me, saying I was so arrogant. Did I really think I was the mistress of the harem? Apologized to Sui immediately. He shouted harshly, completely disregarding my dignity. He became her savior. And the 2 of them stood there with tear-filled eyes, clinging to each other. I was utterly humiliated, mocked by everyone. In this lifetime, they'll never make me the villain or a stepping stone. I feigned surprise but dared not speak. The noble consort lowered her eyes in silence. The consort unrolled her eyes, about to scold, but I pulled her sleeve, and she hurriedly raised her sleeve to cover her mouth. Feigning fear, the emperor felt a bit embarrassed. Our entourage helped him regain his royal dignity. He might have suddenly remembered that he wasn't the homeless Zhao Xin, but the sovereign ruler of a nation. Sui, don't leave yet. Wait for me. Cough. Wait until I've changed clothes. Then I'll speak with you. Zhou Sui clearly wasn't satisfied with this answer. There's no need. You are the emperor, and I am just a fisherman's daughter. I know I don't deserve to stay here. I must take my leave. She said her goodbyes but did not leave. Only her eyes, filled with mist, lingered on the emperor. The emperor's heart was a little panicked. This is so annoying. What should I do now? Are these people dead? Can't one of you say a few kind words for me and try to keep Sui here? I am the emperor. Can I really go beg a woman? I rolled my eyes inwardly. In my previous life, I worked diligently according to your wishes. When you killed me, you didn't hesitate. In this life, you won't be able to use anyone else. During the emperor's absence, I have clarified the palace regulations, handled matters according to protocol, and acted with propriety. The palace attendants all followed the rules, each doing their duty, and no one dared to speak out. Everyone watched in silence as the emperor and Zhou Sui engaged in their passionate affair. Seeing no one trying to stop her, Zhou Sui clenched her teeth and stormed off, huffing angrily. As she reached the door, she suddenly swayed and collapsed to the ground. The emperor rushed over immediately. Sui, how are you? Someone quickly summoned the imperial physician. The imperial physician arrived. He diagnosed Zhou Sui as pregnant. While offering congratulations, the imperial physician furrowed his brows even deeper. Shu Fei and An Fei exchanged glances. An Fei quietly gave a thumbs up. Shu Fei adjusted the green hairpin on her head. I have a few green hairpins too, I'll wear them all tomorrow. The emperor was overjoyed. He embraced Zhou Sui, who was slowly regaining consciousness, and wept with joy. Sui, did you hear that? We have a child, our own. Zhou Sui smiled, then cried. This child cannot be kept. I am the daughter of a good family, yet I have committed an affair with you. I have already sinned. This child is a mistake. I cannot make another mistake. Give me an abortion potion. I must terminate it. The emperor held her tightly, heartbroken. Sui, you can't be so heartless. This is the child I've been longing for. I must give it a proper name. I will marry you and make you my empress. But I'm just a fisherman's daughter. No one will accept me as empress. Besides, I'm afraid of the palace. I just want to spend my life with my husband. If you can't give me that, let me go. I won't let you go. Anyone who dares to object, I will kill them. He turned to look at us, as if we were enemies. What a dog of a man. I didn't say a single word. You dare to slander me like that? I won't hold back. I immediately said, Your Majesty, you're being so selfish. How can you not consider Zhou girl? She's a young woman who has abandoned her virtue for you. You can make her your queen, but the child cannot be born. If the child is born, the timing will be wrong, and it will be proof that she was not a virgin before marriage. Even if you make her empress, she and the child will be mocked by the entire world. How can you be so selfish? Do you want Zhou girl to be ridiculed for the rest of her life? The emperor was stunned. He snapped out of it and flew into a rage. I am the emperor. Who dares to mock her? I looked at him as if he were a fool. The Empress Dowager did the same. The Empress Consort did not know what we were doing, but she tried to keep in step with the others, also looking at the emperor with an expression that defied words. The emperor slammed his fist on the table. What do you all want? I said, Your Majesty, when a prince is born, there are midwives, imperial physicians, palace maids, eunuchs, wet nurses to attend to him. The child is bathed by the Astronomical Bureau on the third day. His name is recorded in the imperial genealogy, and his daily activities are documented. With so many people watching over him, do you intend to kill everyone in the world? Or do you plan to hide Zhou girl away and never let her see the light of day? It's clear you're jealous of Sui and want to harm her. The emperor roared. My voice was louder than his. Your Majesty, I have no grudge against her. Why would I be jealous of her? Is she more beautiful than me? Is her family background better than mine? Is her demeanor more noble than mine? I am superior to her in every way. Why would I envy her? Because I am delighted by her. Ha 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 ha. What is so great about his delight? In my previous life, I did not delight in him. In this life, it is even more impossible. I said coldly from the day I entered the palace. I knew I would share the emperor with my sisters. According to ancestral laws, the emperor is destined to have one empress, 4 consorts, 9 concubines, 27 concubines, and 81 concubines. There are already so many sisters in the harem, what difference does one more make? I will not envy her because the emperor favors her. Instead, I will be happy that he has found such a fine woman. But honest words are hard to hear. Since your majesty does not wish to listen, I shall take my leave. You may make your own plans for Miss So. I swept my sleeves and departed. The noble consort shook her head and sighed. Your majesty, you have truly misunderstood the noble consort. During your absence, it was the noble consort who took care of me, allowing me to give birth safely. If the noble consort were truly jealous, my child would not have survived. Your majesty, I shall take my leave first. And Faye also sighed deeply. Your majesty, after you left, the harem was in harmony, all thanks to the empress consort's kindness and fairness. If your majesty truly loves So girl, you should consider her reputation. A woman's reputation is of utmost importance, let alone that of the empress of a nation. Ah, So girl, take care of yourself. If you truly wish to become empress, you must remain spotless. But now, alas. 3 people spoke in succession. The emperor was confused. Zhou Suyi was also bewildered. What should have been a joyous occasion had now become an obstacle. For 3 consecutive days, I avoided the emperor. When he came to see me, I said I was unwell and could not meet him. He went to see Xu Fei and An Fei. The 2 of them spoke of my conduct in the harem while he was away. The emperor might truly believe he was wrong, but he still did not understand. The child has already come. Are we really going to abort it? Xu Fei spoke calmly. Although Zhou Suyi is favored by the emperor, her family background is ordinary, and her appearance is average. The only thing she can compete with is her virtue. Making Zhou Suyi the empress is not something the emperor can decide alone, it must be recognized by the people of the realm and the court officials. And Fei asked curiously, Your Majesty, when you proposed So girl as empress in the previous court, what did the ministers say? The emperor's face darkened, and his expression was grim. He hadn't mentioned it at all, and he dared not mention it. In the past few days, I was well aware of what had happened in the previous court. The emperor had not appeared for over 9 months, and the ministers had grown accustomed to his absence, establishing their own set of rules. The emperor's sudden appearance disrupted their rhythm. He was eager to reclaim power, scolding the old ministers, rejecting petitions, and reassigning officials. Upon his return, he immediately emphasized imperial authority from a position of superiority, rather than expressing gratitude and proceeding gradually. The ministers were no pushovers, they cited ancestral regulations and rituals to check the emperor's power. There was a growing sense of mutual hostility between them. In the previous life, the emperor had spent little time outside the palace, and upon his return, he had reclaimed his authority without much resistance. In this life, however, his difficult days had arrived. If he dared to propose Zhou Suyi as empress at this time, he would be attacked by the ministers until he issued a self-reproach edict, and he would have to go before his ancestors to apologize before the matter could be resolved. The emperor left the concubine's palace with a stern expression. He barged into my palace with a cold expression. I bowed and turned to play with the children. In this life, my parents are still alive. My sisters get along well, and I have a son by my side. He is no longer of any use to me. The emperor sensed my coldness. He stammered. Ah, Feng. It was I who misunderstood you. I stopped him from continuing. Those empty words. I didn't want to hear a single one. How low he was now. How ruthless he would be when the time came to settle accounts. I didn't want to alienate him completely just yet. I was waiting for the day to strike while he was down. Your Majesty is not at fault. In this servant's heart, Your Majesty will never be wrong. The fault lies with those who planted the notion of jealousy in Your Majesty's mind. This servant is truly innocent. I raised my sleeve to pretend to wipe away tears. It had been too long since I had acted in front of the emperor. My eyes were dry, I couldn't cry at all. The emperor frowned. Perhaps my words made him feel a little better. Sui is new here and doesn't understand the palace rules. Feng. Don't bother with her. I still think of you in my heart. Sui. I'm doing this all for you. I'm just pretending with her. You are the one I truly love. Don't misunderstand me. Me? Bitch. A pair of bitches. Kill them. Kill them all. I used the excuse of holding the child to shake off the emperor's hand from my shoulder. I cleared my throat and said, Your Majesty, there is no need for this. I have said before that I do not envy whom you favor. If you wish to make Zhou Girl the empress, as long as the court officials agree, I will humbly welcome her into the palace. However, before offering my advice, there is one thing I wish to clarify. What do you like about Zhou Girl? The emperor froze. He remained silent. But his mind was racing. What do I like about Sui? She is not as beautiful as the empress. Not as talented as the noble consort. And not as lively and charming as the consortin. In terms of appearance, family background, and demeanor, she indeed falls short in every aspect. But she has shared hardships with me, shielded me from danger, and endured so much suffering for me. All the concubines in the harem harbor ulterior motives. But only Sui is willing to follow me. Who has nothing? Only we have proven our true feelings in times of adversity. He raised his eyes and said, I love her sincere heart. This is something I have never felt in the palace. An emperor who has slept with all the concubines in the palace is so pure-hearted. It's hard to believe. But for some reason, I feel like he truly means it. Perhaps he is telling the truth. The sisters in the palace come from noble families or official backgrounds, each with their own missions. True feelings are rare for us. Even if we were to offer our true hearts, would he dare to accept them? Not only would he not accept them, but he would likely see us as greedy and insatiable. He already harbors prejudice against women from noble families. And this prejudice prevents him from loving any of us. He only sees us as threats. Moreover, does hardship truly reveal one's true heart? It's merely a temporary reliance on one another in times of weakness. When people are hungry, they become simple. But that doesn't mean they become pure. I'll see if their sincerity can withstand the test. Since His Majesty insists on making Miss Zhou the Empress, I have two suggestions. The first is to abort the child and find a noble family to adopt Miss Zhou as their daughter. Then formally marry her to the emperor. The second is to keep the child. There was once a concubine surnamed Zhou in the palace who died during a national mourning period. So she was secretly buried without fanfare. Later, the eunuchs forgot to report this matter. I discovered it earlier and had planned to wait for the emperor's return to decide. But now I feel this is a good opportunity. If Zhou Girl takes the name of that concubine, she will have a noble lineage and a clear background. Though her rank will be that of a beauty, she will have to wait to rise slowly. This path is slow, requiring several years. But it is the safest. And the emperor will face the least difficulties. How to choose? Please let the emperor discuss it with Zhou Girl and decide for himself. The emperor left with a heavy heart. I watched his back, the corners of my lips curving slightly. If Zhou Sui chooses to become empress and give up her child, I will make her regret it. If she chooses to start as a lowly beauty, then she will fall into my hands. I will make her know what it means to be a woman in the palace. The emperor and Zhou Sui had an argument. Zhou Sui ran out of the palace. It was raining heavily, and she cried out in agony. Zhao Xin, you said you would clear the obstacles for me, but you believed them and abandoned our child. Neither I nor the child will ever forgive you. I must leave here and never return. The emperor grabbed her and forcefully carried her back. You're mine. You're not allowed to go anywhere. My side is where you belong. The two of them fought and struggled, crying and screaming. Xu Fei, and An Fei stood in the distance, holding umbrellas and watching quietly. Xu Fei said coldly, I've got goosebumps all over. And Fei covered her eyes. My eyes are going to go blind. How could the emperor become like this? He wasn't like this before. Could it be? Did we chase him and he hit his head while running away? She whispered. I said lazily. He's probably always been like this. It's just that Zhou Sui brought out his true nature. I always felt that he and Zhou Sui were the same kind of people. They both believed that others were out to harm them. In his world, they were the good guys, and we were all the bad guys. When I engaged in marital relations with him, it was out of self-abasement and promiscuity, thinking only of carnal desires. When he and Zhou Sui lived under the open sky, doing as they pleased, it was simply following their hearts and revering nature. We flatter him because we covet power and have low morals. Zhou Sui says she doesn't want this or that, but all the best things in the palace are in her room. Yet he thinks she is indifferent to fame and fortune and of noble character. In my previous life, I suffered because of this. Now, I've come to understand. The emperor finds me annoying, I'll just get rid of him. That way, my world will be filled with people who are pleasing to my eyes. This is the right thing to do. I don't know how the emperor persuaded Zhou Sui. She agreed to have an abortion. I was very happy and personally led the imperial physician to give her the abortion medicine. This is the abortion medicine of Imperial Physician Song. Although it is a little bitter, it is very effective and has a good reputation. This is the medicine from Imperial Physician Zhao. It has a mild nature and won't harm the body, but the process will take longer. If Zhou Sui chooses this medicine, she'll have to endure some pain. This is the medicine from Imperial Physician Kong. It's a bit stronger, but the process is quick. However, after taking it, she won't be able to serve the emperor for at least 3 months. Zhou Sui's face turned as pale as frost. Empress, are you trying to scare me? I ignored her and turned to the emperor, saying helplessly, Your Majesty, please choose for Zhou girl. Whatever I say now, she probably won't want to hear. I walked behind the emperor and gave Zhou Sui a defiant smile. In my previous life, she was like this in front of the emperor, using words of compromise and resignation to imply that I was aggressive and jealous. In this life, I am treating her the same way she treated me, and I hope she can hold on. The emperor persuaded her. Sui, choose one. Zhou Sui was in tears. Sheng, can't you see that she's bullying me? If she truly cares about me, she should have brought a proper prescription. Not 3. The emperor frowned at me. I looked at the 3 imperial physicians. The 3 physicians sighed helplessly. We each specialize in different areas, so the prescriptions we wrote are different, but they are all effective and good for the young lady's health. If you insist on combining them into one, it can be done. Please wait a moment. The imperial physicians went to rewrite the prescriptions. After a moment, they combined them into one. Zhou Sui was satisfied, and the palace maid went to boil the medicine. I had Xu Fei take a look, and she nodded at me. I knew then that this prescription was bitter, required a long time to take, and would need to be delayed for another 3 months before she could attend the emperor, combining the shortcomings of all the others. It was worth the effort I put into improving the imperial physician's benefits. I was very satisfied. Before long, the medicine was ready. Zhou Sui took a sip and spat it out. "It's so bitter," she cried, looking extremely pitiful. The emperor was powerless to persuade her. "Sui, don't make a fuss. I'm really tired." In just a few days, he had already shown signs of exhaustion. Zhou Sui dared not say anything more, enduring the bitterness and finishing the medicine. Soon, the symptoms began to manifest. She was covered in cold sweat, clutching her stomach on the bed, crying pitifully. The emperor cried out in panic. "Why is this happening?" I remained calm and said, "Your Majesty, childbirth is like this for women. She had a miscarriage, and since it was early in the pregnancy, it is better than giving birth." I lowered my head and kissed the child in my arms. But it was worth it. He was my little treasure. For him, everything was worth it. The emperor's eyes were filled with complexity. Were the other concubines like this when they gave birth? But I wasn't there at the time. I have wronged them. As long as they behave themselves and do not cause trouble for Sui, I will spare them. Ah, Feng, you have been through a lot these past few days. He rarely spoke such kind words. But I no longer needed them. In my previous life, Zhao Jiufeng willingly became his lackey, hoping for just one word of approval from him, only to be constantly suppressed, questioned, and criticized. In this life, I will take what I want for myself. I will praise myself, love myself, and treat myself with sincerity. I smiled. "Your Majesty, since you have returned to the palace, you have not had a proper checkup. The imperial physicians are here today. Perhaps they could examine you as well, so that I need not worry." The emperor hesitated. Xu Fei said, "Your Majesty, it will take some time for Zhou girl to finish. If there is any news, the palace maids will report it promptly. We will diagnose you in the side hall and will not go far." The emperor agreed. An Fei tenderly supported him, as if he were a fragile person. The emperor visibly relaxed, as if he had found someone to lean on. He left lightly. He did not notice Zhou Sui's resentful gaze. I understand her feelings. She was here, alone and helpless, enduring pain, unsure of her future. He, however, was only concerned with himself, wanting only to escape the chaos. They had once shared hardships and felt each other's pain. But back in the opulent palace, he was the emperor, high above everyone else, while she was an unknown fisherwoman. The gap between them was evident. In truth, the gap had always been there, it had simply been overlooked before. Now, they had merely returned to their respective circles. Nothing more. The imperial physician examined the emperor from head to toe, inside and out. After the examination, he furrowed his brows. I immediately said, "How is the emperor's health? Tell me the truth. The emperor and I will take care in the future. If you hide anything, and the emperor is unaware and gets injured again, it will be your fault." The 3 imperial physicians immediately knelt on the ground. "We deserve to die. We dare not speak." The emperor seemed to have realized something. He frowned and coldly ordered, "Speak!" The 3 imperial physicians looked at each other, and the leader trembled as he said, "We examined the emperor's body and discovered that he had been injured in the past. It is likely that he will be unable to have children in the future." The emperor was stunned. His expression was as if he had been struck by lightning. He couldn't react for a moment. "You dare to speak such nonsense?" "We dare not." The 3 imperial physicians knelt on the ground, nearly scared to death. In truth, they had long known that the emperor could not have children. But in the past, they had clung to a sliver of hope, thinking that if any of the concubines in the harem were to become pregnant, it would reflect poorly on their medical skills. So they dared not speak. But now, with the emperor having suffered severe injuries to his lower body, that sliver of hope was completely gone. If any of the concubines were to become pregnant, it would be a green hat of infidelity placed on the emperor's head. Therefore, they had no choice but to speak up. Today was, in a way, a good opportunity for them. The emperor looked dazed for a moment, then seemed to come to his senses. Sui. He had thought of it. If he could no longer have children, the child in Zhou Suyi's womb would be his last. But it was too late. I curved my lips slightly, then quickly suppressed the smile and followed after them. Xu Fei and An Fei hurried after them, afraid of missing anything. The three imperial physicians also rushed to follow. The closer they got to the main hall, the more distinct Zhou Suyi's piercing screams became. The midwife comforted Zhou Suyi. Just push a little harder, and it will come out. The emperor shouted. No. However, Zhou Suyi was startled and trembled. The midwife exclaimed joyfully. It's out. It's a boy. Already 4 months old. What a pity. The emperor's footsteps halted as he rushed into the inner chamber. He glared coldly at the midwife. How many months did you say? Your Majesty. 4 months. Can you determine the fetus's age? The two midwives exchanged glances and answered honestly. Your Majesty. The length, weight, and facial features of the fetus vary each month. We have delivered many babies and can tell. The fetus in Zhou lady's womb is over 4 months old. We would not make a mistake. The emperor closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them again, the anger in his eyes had turned to calm. All of you, leave. The others were confused and began to withdraw. The emperor added, the 3 imperial physicians remain. I wished he would have kept me as well. Alas. He did not. I walked slowly. Xu Fei walked beside me, and Fei was a few steps behind me. We all heard a loud shout from the inner palace. You worthless servant. How long do you intend to deceive me? The corners of my lips curled slightly. In this life, I sent people to look for Zhou Suyi, but I couldn't find her. It was as if she lived in a place like a utopia, where only the emperor could open the door to enter. I could only focus my efforts on the emperor, delaying the emperor's meeting with Zhou Suyi. For over a month before he left the palace, he traveled and enjoyed himself. I waited until he was far from the palace and couldn't return in time, then ordered men to pursue and kill him. But the emperor was truly difficult to kill. We fought with all our strength, yet only managed to wound him in the lower body. He ended up in a fishing village and was saved by Zhou Suyi. After recovering from his injuries, he secretly returned to the capital with Zhou Suyi. The two endured countless hardships along the way, and their feelings for each other grew, leading them to become entangled in a fateful relationship. I imagine the emperor must have been overjoyed at that time. A man who had been wounded in the lower body would likely seek to prove his worth by conquering women, in order to regain his self-respect. The fact that Zhou Suyi was pregnant must have filled him with immense joy. This was the best proof of his continued virility. But today, the words of the imperial physician and the midwife shattered his self-respect. He was nothing more than a pitiful man who had lost his power, his ability to father children, and was wearing a green hat. The pure and flawless love he had longed for was nothing but a liar who deceived both above and below. We don't need to lift a finger, he will trample her into the mud himself. What happened after we left that day? I pieced together the truth from the words of several palace attendants. The emperor had the imperial physician confirm the fetus's gestational age, then had the fetus's fingers chopped off and its blood dripped into the bones to confirm whether it was his own. But he failed. I think he might have gone mad. Dripping blood into the bones to verify paternity is just a folk belief. Yet he believed it. Perhaps he was truly desperate. Like a trapped beast. Zhou Sui didn't even get to rest after giving birth. She was demoted to a palace maid. The emperor ordered her to serve him, watching her every day while torturing her mercilessly. He would randomly knock things over, forcing Zhou Sui to kneel on the ground and clean up. He stepped on her hands, watching her cry out in pain before feeling satisfied. He ordered her to grind ink, then splashed the ink all over her body, dipping his fingers in the ink on her skin to write. Laughing with glee, he made her serve food, then scattered the dishes all over her face, forbidding her to wash it off. After witnessing all this, I realized how twisted a person could be. The emperor was disgraced in the harem, and the court was in chaos. He took advantage of this chaos to ruthlessly deal with several powerful ministers and reclaim some authority. These things, if he hadn't done them, I would have done them myself. It's better to handle them in his generation than have them dirty my hands in the future. Once he had mostly dealt with things, I began to act, and coincidentally encountered Zhou Sui. At that time, Zhou Sui was already emaciated, her body reduced to nothing but bones. She no longer cared about her own life. Upon seeing me, she did not bow in respect but instead curled her lips into a mocking smile. You women of the imperial harem are truly disgusting. All you know is how to scheme and plot. I may not be able to outwit you, but I still find you repulsive. When she entered the palace, she had 7 parts of her beauty, but now she was tortured down to 4. Yet her eyes were startlingly bright. I recalled a disease characterized by bright eyes, protruding eyes, and a thick neck. Her symptoms seemed to match some of them. I have never wronged you. Yet you have targeted me ever since you entered the palace. Why do you hate me so much? Humph. Why should I tell you? She wore a secretive smile, exuding a sense of self-satisfaction, as if she alone was awake while the world was drunk. I thought about it and decided I didn't need to know. Once she was dead, there would be no secrets left. I laughed. If you don't want to say it, then never say it. Those who speak are dogs. Zhou Sui's eyes widened, and she held her breath, unable to speak, looking very uncomfortable. She snorted coldly and turned to leave. I said, I know who the person you've been secretly meeting is. Her footsteps halted. You're just playing dirty tricks, slandering a woman's virtue to suppress her. I despise people like you. I won't believe a single word you say. I smiled. Should I call you Miss Zhou? Or Miss Zhou? Should I call you Zhou Sui? Or Zhou Sui? She turned back, her face darkening. What nonsense. Ha 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 ha. I wasn't sure before, but seeing your reaction, I'm certain now. I recall that the empress of the previous dynasty was surnamed Zhou. After the previous dynasty fell, her clan protected the imperial family and fled, changing their names and disappearing. I never expected you to be a descendant of the former imperial family. She was startled, then gave a strange smile. You're a loyal dog to Zhaoshan. But do you know what he says about you? He says you're beautiful but empty-headed, arrogant and extravagant, yet unaware of your own flaws. If it weren't for the necessity of using your family, he wouldn't want to see you for a single day. He treats you like this, yet you still serve him? I reached out and slapped her across the face without hesitation. Unfortunately, I could only slap her once. If I had the chance, I would have slapped her until her face was swollen like a pig's. I coldly said, The emperor is my husband and my lord. I will not tolerate you trampling on his dignity. I turned and walked away. But as I walked, I felt dizzy. Before I fell to the ground, a figure darted out of the dark bamboo grove and held me tightly in his arms. Jiu Feng. Jiu Feng? I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I shouldn't have harbored prejudice against you. I was truly wrong. I'm such a fool. Why did I humiliate my own concubine for a woman who betrayed me? I deserve to die. Hearing the emperor's voice, I let myself faint. The emperor truly treated Zhou Suyi differently. He tormented her during the day. But at night, he followed her, escorting her back to her cramped palace maid's quarters before returning to his own chambers. That's why I knew this and waited here for Zhou Suyi. All my efforts were not in vain. I fainted for 3 days. I had calculated the dosage carefully. 3 days were enough for the emperor to uncover the truth. He discovered that Zhou Suyi's real name was Zhou Suyi. They were remnants of the former royal family, hiding in a fishing village for decades. The emperor stumbled upon them by accident, and they saw this as a golden opportunity to restore the former dynasty. They planned to use Zhou Suyi to confuse the imperial bloodline and seize the throne without shedding a drop of blood. Zhou Suyi initially shared this ambition. However, once she entered the palace, her thoughts began to change. She did not want to be controlled by the remnants of the former royal family anymore. She was well aware that they were bound to fail. And when that happened, they could escape easily, while she, alone, would surely die in the depths of the palace. She wanted to truly control her own destiny, but she planned to observe the situation and go with the flow. If the emperor was powerful, she would use him against us, give birth to a child, and rule alone, enjoying all the luxuries of life. If the empress was powerful, she could use the excuse of getting rid of the child to eliminate future threats, and then exploit the emperor's guilt to suppress the empress, elevate herself to a high position, and slowly conceive a child to secure her place in the palace. She had everything planned out perfectly. The only thing she hadn't accounted for was that the emperor was unable to have children. All her hopes and dreams had turned to dust. The emperor was furious. He had always believed that he and Zhou Suyi were truly in love, never imagining that from the day he fell into that fishing village. It had all been a scheme. He now hated Zhou Suyi with a vengeance. He hated the remnants of the previous dynasty even more. He sent men to eliminate them, but they had already fled. The emperor was now in a state of rage. He couldn't stand anyone. The ministers dared not provoke him, and the concubines dared not approach him. So he resorted to torturing Zhou Suyi in every imaginable way. In his rage, he actually came up with a plan. He intended to make Zhou Suyi his empress and have her send a signal to summon those people. Those people do not know that Zhou Suyi has miscarried. They will certainly come to mock him. At that time, he will capture them all. He feared I might misunderstand, so he came to explain to me. This was the first time I had seen him since I woke up. In just a few days, he had grown so thin he was unrecognizable. Ah, Feng, do not misunderstand. I am trying to lure the snake out of its hole. Once we've dealt with those remnants of the previous dynasty, I will compensate you generously. I will make you empress, and Zhou Suyi will be at your disposal. Perhaps I was truly wrong. My mother's judgment was indeed better than mine. Though aristocratic women may be affected, propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame are ingrained in their bones. That slut Zhou Suyi is no match for Feng. I paused, wanting to say something. Don't judge someone based on one thing. Isn't it possible that everyone has a good side and a bad side? And it just depends on which side is showing at the moment. But then I thought better of it. The emperor and I would never be able to sit down and have a heart-to-heart talk in this lifetime. Let's just end it all here. On the day of the coronation ceremony, the emperor didn't allow me to come and urge her to get ready. Zhou Suyi's face was deathly pale, dressed in a loose wedding gown, being manipulated by palace attendants like a puppet, exuding an air of despair and decay. When she saw me, her eyes flashed with an astonishing brilliance. Zhao Jiufeng, have you come to mock me? If I had the same background and family as you, I would never have lost to you. I would have charmed Zhaoshan completely, leaving you alone and helpless in the palace for the rest of your life. I didn't lose. So don't you dare come here to mock me. Oh. Humph. You're wrong. Your only advantage was your lowly birth. If you were a noble woman, the emperor would despise you just the same. With your looks, you wouldn't even be able to enter the palace. Having been reborn, I've always been curious about the emperor's thoughts. Why doesn't he like noble women? Why does he think we're all bad? Later, I learned from an old palace maid that the emperor was harshly scolded by his mother when he was young. His mother came from a noble family and had high expectations for him. But unfortunately, the emperor was mediocre and had no outstanding qualities. To motivate him, his mother constantly compared him to others. Today, he couldn't shoot arrows as well as a certain noble family's son. Tomorrow, his calligraphy was inferior to that of a noble family's son. The day after that, he couldn't memorize a text as well as another noble family's son. He was constantly being put down, and his entire childhood and adolescence were spent in misery. But he was lucky. His mother was ambitious and fought her way to the top, pushing him into a high position. Even better, once he ascended the throne, his mother selected his concubines for him and then passed away. No one restrained him anymore. He could unleash his true nature without restraint. The more outstanding we concubines, chosen by the late Empress Dowager, were, the more inferior he felt. Only by suppressing us could he regain his self-respect. So he belittled and looked down on us, watching us circle around him in confusion. He was delighted. Zhou Sui's appearance was a salvation for him. She knew nothing of the palace, had no talent, and was completely dependent on him. He manipulated her, controlled her, and found it deeply pleasurable. Occasionally, she would provoke him, but he enjoyed it, for everything was under his control. If Zhou Sui were like us, he would abandon her just as easily. Zhou Sui's eyes were red and swollen. Zhao Jiufeng, I hate you. If you were dead, everything would be better. I curved my lips slightly and used my finger to lift her gaunt face. Miss Zhou, you're ill. Even I can see it. Didn't the emperor notice? The man you love so much doesn't care about you as much as your sworn enemy does. What use is this love to you? Furthermore, what do you hate about me? What right do you have to hate me? The one who impregnated you was a remnant of the former imperial family. The one who forced you to abort was the emperor. The one who abandoned you was also the emperor. The only thing I have done for you is to uncover your true identity. You dare not hate them. Yet you dare to hate me. Is it because you are hypocritical and weak? You dare not hate those who are far stronger than you. But you dare to hate me, who seems easier to bully. It is because you know you are weak and helpless, and can only vent your hatred on me, who is also a woman. Humph. You're truly pitiful. But there's no point in saying this to you. After today, you will die. After this incident, His Majesty now knows that we, the women of the noble families, are the most reliable. His Majesty will make me his queen. I am the only woman by His Majesty's side. And you will die. Zhou Sui charged at me in anger, but was held back by 2 palace maids. I want you dead. You worthless slave. I want you dead. I raised my eyes defiantly at her. I am the winner. Seeing Zhou Sui's fiery gaze, I left satisfied. The grand ceremony began. The emperor led Zhou Sui onto the square. Among the crowd, there were indeed some outcasts. Their faces were darkened by years of fishing and hunting, though they wore new clothes and behaved politely. It was merely temporary etiquette, not the elegance ingrained in the bones of nobility. Their eyes fixed on the emperor, their lips curled into a secret smile. The music began, and the emperor raised his hand. Suddenly, The soldiers behind them silently raised their axes and swords, striking down with force. Blood spattered everywhere. And as each head fell, the expressions on their faces still bore a strange smile. Zhou Sui was terrified. She clung to her head and screamed loudly, then threw herself into the emperor's arms. "Deep brother, save me!" The emperor was dazed and instinctively reached out to catch her. However, what he caught was not just a warm embrace, but a cold, sharp knife. Zhou Sui's face was covered in blood, yet she smiled broadly. She pushed past the emperor and looked at me, laughing madly. "I won. I'm the winner. What I can't have, you can't have either." The next moment, her mouth opened wide. Her body was pierced by several knives and fell heavily to the ground. The emperor was not dead, but seriously injured. He knew that his time was coming. He summoned me and the court officials to his bedside, making arrangements for his final affairs one by one. He appointed me as empress. He named my son as crown prince. He entrusted him to several ministers and instructed me to rule from behind the curtain. Then he looked at me. His eyes filled with lingering affection. The court officials withdrew. I held my son and sat beside him, watching him. Perhaps, when one is about to die, their words are kind. At that moment, his paternal love suddenly awoke, and he struggled to raise his fingers to touch the child's cheek. Alas, I cannot be with him as he grows up. I regret it so much. I am not a good father. It's all right, Your Majesty. You were never meant to be a father. I spoke softly, a smile playing at the corners of my lips. He froze. What do you mean? I bent down, gently covering his nose with my hand, and whispered in his ear, "Your Majesty, you weren't unable to have children because of your injury. You've never been able to have children. You're a eunuch. Don't you know?" He struggled desperately. You're lying. And Fei. Shu. Oh. Those two? Your Majesty. Didn't you notice that we were pregnant at the same time? And our children's birthdays are only a few days apart? The emperor's eyes widened, tears welling up. His teeth clenched. You whore. You whores. Sui. My Su. He struggled with all his might. But as he tried to speak, he coughed up a mouthful of blood and collapsed lifelessly on the bed. He was dead. He died with his eyes wide open. The bed curtains moved on their own, without a breeze. A chill crept into my skin. I took a step back and coldly stared at him. Your Majesty, you are still so black and white. If we are bad, your plain robe becomes good. If the plain robe is bad, we become good again. In truth, we are who we are. Always have been. If you want genuine love, you must exchange it for genuine love. There is no such thing in this world where you can abuse me, insult me, yet I still love you and long for you. If there is, it must be a deception. This life shall be as it is. If there is a next life, we shall settle our accounts then. I carried the child out and announced loudly that the emperor had died. The crowd knelt and wept. I looked at the setting sun and felt that the good days had only just begun. The intrigues of the palace had come to an end. The deceit and betrayal of the previous dynasty had begun. And I finally had the opportunity to step onto the battlefield of power. This world. I have come. You all kneel quickly.